Welcome, everyone. I'm thrilled that you've joined me for this presentation entitled The Mental Side of Sport, You Have a Role. This is dedicated to coaches and trainers. So my name is Kimberly, pronouns she, her, hers, and I'm a licensed mental health professional who also works from a social justice perspective in order to bring about systems change and make the world better for clients and others. So for the next 20 to 30 minutes, we're going to go on a journey, begin to dial in on what the mental side of sports is and why your athletes will benefit. With that said, let us dive into our journey together. All right, I begin every presentation do with an outline so that way we can chart a course together, feel grounded in the experience. And please note throughout the presentation that I will be asking you to stop the video and do some reflection and writing. And find that, especially when we're in a video situation where we can't interact, that this really helps bring the material alive and helps you kind of engage a little bit more. So our journey today begins with understanding what we already know, right? So it helps us to know where we're starting. Then we'll look at a little bit of a foundation in the next 4 slides to give us the time to explore with a micro example, a macro example, context, and even how the mental side of sport can be beneficial to you as the coach or the trainer. And then the conclusion of the presentation will highlight the collaboration that exists between professionals and asks us to reflect on how we each hold responsibility for understanding the mental side of sport. But now that we know where we are going, let us dive in on our journey. I'm here with you, and I'm excited to go on it with you. So with that said, remember, we're going to start with what do we already know? So on the slide, you're going to see a list of questions. Yes, there are a lot of questions. Acknowledge that. So take a minute to review and engage with them. And I'm going to ask you to pause the video and do some writing and some reflection after you read the questions. Maybe you read them aloud too. There's something different between just visually reading and hearing it, especially if you're an auditory learner. And then also, especially if you're kinesthetic, when you write, that's going to kind of engage those systems. So we're hopefully going to work with everyone's learning style, as well as engage multiple senses. I am going to actually also read the questions aloud for you. So feel free to read them for yourself after I do that. But I do want you to pay attention to what you notice in your gut, your thoughts, your body, emotions, anything that arises for you. Pay attention to it. Okay, so again, I'm going to start by reading it. Maybe you pause the video, you read them again yourself, maybe you read them out loud. You've got a variety of options here. Or you can fast forward it so you don't have to hear me read them. So question 1, what experiences do you have with sports and performance psychology? Have you interacted with sport and performance professionals either for yourself, your team, or in any other situation? What was it like? What do you already know about the mental side of sport? How do you empower your athletes to understand the mental side of sport? Do you feel comfortable addressing the mental side of sport? What are your strengths and challenges when it comes to addressing the mental side of sport? Do you know what your professional boundaries are around the mental side of sport? Okay. All right. Now that I've read those questions, hopefully you have time to pause the video, make notes of anything that you come up with for yourself, ask questions, reflect, write your answers, and then when you're ready, continue the video. All right, thank you so much for taking the time to engage in that reflection process. I know we're not always asked to do that in presentations, and again, I hope you find it valuable. So let us explore our first example. So I have a passion personally for supporting elders, master athletes as well. And in some cultures, elders are held in honor, while in others, they're not and often forgotten. Today, I'm going to highlight the elders and the master athletes because I don't want them to be forgotten. So Makepeace and team did a study where they looked at Canadian master athletes and demonstrated that master athletes, used goal setting, imagery, arousal regulation, concentration, and self-confidence to enhance performance and gain the competitive edge. So notice this list. What is the common theme among these strategies? Well, these are all skills that are in the realm of the mental side of sport. One other important piece to mention about masters athletes from the study, they uniquely applied sports psychology as a method to enhance their performance and sport adherence. None of this is to say that skill development or knowledge of the sports are not important. This is not this is an and situation. It's not an either or situation. We need both sides of it. So additionally, the results show that unique application of sport to enhance our performance matters, right? So that piece is important, but why? So it matters because, well, there is one example. There is a need to bring it to the mental side. There's a need to bring it to the mental side of sports. This population demonstrated that, right? They found a way to make it work for themselves. Everyone finds a way to make the mental side of sport work for them. So it just may matter to your athletes more than you know to incorporate the mental side of sports. So in the previous slide, we explored the roles of the mental aspect of sport within a population. But what about when we look at it on a more global perspective? Sport is important for any country, providing value on a social, economic, and physical level. This is according to, I'm sorry if I mispronounce his name, Guiji, as well as an avenue for increasing health and productivity of a population, lowering stress levels, right? I don't know about you, but lowered stress levels. Well, and sport, as we all know, it is a business, right? You know, nationally, internationally, impacting economic, political, and cultural aspects of the countries. You could think about any number of examples. You know, I think about what Americans call soccer, but the rest of the world calls football. Right? Think about how that impacts the world. So, sports psychology includes bringing in the larger perspective and how that impacts the athletes. Translation: sports psychology provides the opportunity to better understand and improve performance. So if performance improves, then the potential for the athlete's success improves, right? Logical connection. But assuming that this is the case, then as coaches and trainers, it is vital to focus on that mental aspect. And according to Lockbaum et al., sports psychology is a vital avenue through which to further understand and improve sports performance. So bias, but I would agree, right? There is that piece, and you think about even the current, like the past Olympics and all the mental health pieces that were brought up. All right. So if you remember, I asked you earlier if you had experience with sports psychology yourself. Here it comes, back around. So there was a reason for that question. We almost always think about sports psychology and the mental aspect of sports and how it can be applied to athletes. But what about coaches and trainers? How can you all benefit? So if you benefit as a coach or trainer, imagine how what you learn will enhance your work with athletes and their experiences of the mental aspect. You know, sometimes having gone through an experience helps you better embody it and explain it, and it translates, I don't want to use the word easier, but potentially more effectively with an athlete. So this leads me to the two questions on the slide. What themes do you notice and recognize? And what overlaps do you see between coaches and athletes in terms of benefits and barriers? I'm not going to go into depth answering these questions because of our time boundaries, but I do want to give you a small piece before I recommend this as another opportunity to pause the video and do some reflection and writing. There's wisdom in exploring. There's wisdom in exploring. I'm going to emphasize that. The parallels between, because it helps build empathy, compassion, and when it comes to the mental aspect of sport, if you support your athletes from that place of sharing your wisdom, it will resonate with them on a much deeper level. So can't emphasize that enough. And then one final thought to bring before asking you to pause the video is that we just have explored these different perspectives about your role in assisting the athletes in the mental side aspect of sports. There is an art and skill, right? Art, you know, you hear art and science, potentially the same thing. There's different connotations when I speak about that, to understanding and supporting athletes to experience and explore the mental aspects of sport. So take some time to either experience, explore, research, or practice your delivery depending on your experience and comfort level. Your athletes will appreciate it. So you can tell when somebody's uncomfortable talking about something. It comes across, like even if your voice maybe sounds a little bit more confident, your body will give it away. Trust me. There's always something. Humans are very attuned. If you think about it, there's something called mirror neurons in our brain, which allow us to kind of, connect. We'll pick it up. So please do pause the video and engage in some writing and reflection, and then push play when you're ready. All right, taking it one step extra and also honoring myself in this process, because I would not feel complete if I did not add a topic that was near and dear to my heart. So no matter what role you have in working with an athlete, think about some of the mental aspects that may not be the most obvious. So, well, the study that this slide is based on was specifically done with athletes that identify as women. I think there's a lot we can extrapolate and apply. So as coaches and athletes and trainers and everyone, we all know the power of words and how they impact ourselves and our experiences and our athletes. So people will easily internalize messages that they hear externally in potentially deep ways. People already have their own internal monologue that draws inspiration from the past and the present. But the one mental skill athletes can benefit from that a coach or trainer can support is the development of keywords or self-talk. Again, if I mispronounce this author's last name, I'm going to apologize in advance. Latchajak et al. Discuss two distinct self-talk entities. So we got the organic self-talk and the strategic self-talk. Within the organic self-talk, there's the distinctions between the spontaneous and goal-directed self-talk. So the organic refers to the inherent thoughts and self-statements athletes speak to themselves. Spontaneous self-talk is that which appears automatically, spontaneously, and goal-directed are self-statements deliberately used for self-regulation. So that leaves room as a coach or a trainer to step in and help athletes develop these. So no matter what type of self-talk we work with athletes or coaches or trainers, pick your spectrum of any role you actually play, or as a sports and performance professional, self-compassion needs to be considered so that the athlete is working towards their best performance. So self-compassion is putting the self-critic off to the side and inviting some compassion for experience themselves. So Kristen Neff is a great resource for learning more about self-compassion and what those components are, and some great exercise. Highly recommend her work to help that. So that's something you can take away from this as well. But the best analogy that I can use to explain the complexities and the importance in the creation is the creation of a woven piece of art. So each component is deliberately woven in with thoughtfulness and consideration for the whole. So everything, for the most part, needs to be done very strategically. Know why you're engaging something. Why are you inviting self-compassion? Why are you inviting keywords? Make it thoughtful and strategic, so that way everything blends together, which again asks you to look at the whole. So now that was a bit of a information dump in a short period of time, and I apologize. So, and hopefully you find it helpful. So as our time together on this journey is starting to come to a close, I would be remiss not to highlight how coaches, trainers, and sports professionals work pretty well together. So each professional has a role in supporting their athlete by forming collaborative relationships that enhance the performance that we're able to give to our athletes. But again, the piece I want to come to is it's a holistic experience. We're looking at the whole athlete, the environment, all these pieces that go into it. So at the same time, every professional, myself, coaches, trainers, physical therapists, everybody needs to ensure that we understand our scope of practice and know how to ask for assistance. My hope and wish for everyone watching this video, and for myself as well, is that we all always keep our athletes at the center of the work so that they have the joy and honor of performing at their best, and that we get that joy too of watching them perform at the best. I don't know about you, but it's beautiful. It's like watching a baby take first steps for the time, but that rush of they did it and they're successful. It's like that proud parent moment, even if you're not the parent. So final thought, thank you all so much for engaging in the process of reflecting and writing throughout this presentation. I really do hope that you find this valuable, supportive, and enlightening. But as we come to the end, we're going to close with an image that you see on the slide. So when you look at this image, what comes to mind? What do you feel in your body? What inspiration comes to mind when you think about the role of the mental side of sport in relationship to this image? What challenges come to mind when you think about the mental side of sport? This is where I will leave you in conjunction with one concluding thought. The mental side of sports is valuable, and you each hold a piece of the puzzle to support the athlete in integrating it into their journey to enhance their performance. So references, if you'd like to dive more into the research side of it. If not, don't worry about it. And I do love to connect with people. Contact information is here. It'll also be in the notes. And please feel free to connect with me on social media. I do love to engage in dialogue. Please feel free to ask questions. I'd love to be of support or service to you and your athletes. But once again, thank you again for showing up for yourself, showing up for your athletes, and just taking the time to learn something new. So I appreciate your time and attention, and I look forward to speaking with you, meeting you, or connecting in some other way. Thank you so much. Bye.